My boyfriend is terrified of elevators. One day, my best friend jokingly put my wedding shoes inside an elevator, trying to make him face his fear. The moment he stepped in, the doors suddenly closed on their own. When they opened again, he was gone. Only my wedding shoes were left in the corner. I froze, remembering the strange elevator game he once told me about. He said the game required pressing a secret sequence of floors, 426-02151. If it stops at the first floor, you fail. My boyfriend is terrified of elevators. One day, my best friend jokingly put my wedding shoes inside an elevator, trying to make him face his fear. The moment he stepped in, the doors suddenly closed on their own. When they opened again, he was gone. Only my wedding shoes were left in the corner. I froze, remembering the strange elevator game he once told me about. He said the game required pressing a secret sequence of floors, 426-02151. If it stops at the first floor, you fail. But if it goes all the way to the 10th floor, it means you've succeeded. I laughed back then, thinking it was just an urban legend, but he told me something that made me uneasy. At the 5th floor, someone might step in. Whatever happens, don't talk to her, don't look at her, and when you reach the 10th floor, don't walk out. Go straight back to the first floor. He once said he played it in high school, and one of his friends didn't come back. Now, I can't stop wondering if the same thing just happened again. Lubai shook his head silently. I tried to comfort him. Even if what you said was true, as long as we don't play that game again, nothing bad will happen, right? He suddenly looked at me, his expression unusually serious. Did you forget the rules I told you? Anyone who breaks any of them will be pulled back to that world. We broke the rules from the very beginning. The game allows only one person to enter, but we went in together. That's why I'm afraid that once I step inside again, I'll be taken back there. I didn't know what to say. That secret stayed buried in my heart for 10 years. I never believed the story, not until today. Lubai was gone. Because this was a newly built residence, there were no cameras installed yet. Friends and family searched every floor, but there was no sign of him. Later, the police checked a private car parked across the street. The dash cam clearly showed that Lubai never left the first floor. My mind went blank. That's when I remembered the elevator sequence. Jiang Wan, my friend, trembled as I told her everything. After Lubai entered, the elevator first went to the 5th floor, then suddenly up to the 10th, and stopped there. When we called it back, only my wedding shoes were left inside. I quickly changed into my wedding dress and prepared to go after him. Jiang Wan grabbed my hand. I'll come with you. No, I said. The rule says only one person can enter. Then go first. When you reach wherever that place is, I'll follow. We lived on the 18th floor. As I stepped into the elevator, I pressed the buttons in the exact order Lubai had once told me. 4, 2, 6, 0, 2, 1, 5, 1. Each time the door opened, a long, dim corridor stretched before me, with only a single green safety light glowing faintly at the end, marking the floor number. When I finally pressed the button for the first floor, the elevator paused for a few seconds, then started moving upward again, non-stop. Ding! The doors opened, and what greeted me was a red light and the giant number 10 on the wall. The 10th floor. It was real. I looked at my phone. The ride had taken exactly 13 minutes, and there was no signal here. Stepping out of the elevator, I stood nearby, waiting for Jiang Wan to arrive. While waiting, I glanced around. There should have been a 24-hour convenience store downstairs, But outside the windows, everything was pitch dark. Not even the moon was visible. A chill crept up my arms. Something felt wrong. Then, ding, the elevator doors opened again. Jingwan stepped out, her face pale. I, I pressed the first floor. How did I end up here? I checked my phone. Her ride had only taken 10 minutes, 3 minutes faster than mine. We didn't think too much about it then and started walking down the hallway, looking for Lu Bai. The corridor felt endless, our footsteps echoing in the silence. After about 10 minutes, I noticed something strange. The plastic film on the door labeled 1004 had been torn off. Someone had been here. I knocked gently. The sound echoed, but no one answered. Just as I turned to leave, Jingguan gasped behind me. Look! On the floor! I followed her gaze and saw a faint reddish stain, shaped like a footprint, smaller than mine, maybe from a pair of women's heels. Jingguan trembled. Let's go. Let's just get out of here. But before we could move, a strange sound echoed from the end of the hallway. What was that? Lu Bai? Is that you? We followed the sound step by step until we turned the corner and froze. Lu Bai was standing there, facing the wall, body tense, muttering something under his breath. I rushed toward him, trying to pull him back, but he flinched violently, pushing my hand away. Don't follow me, he whispered. I barely made it out last time. Then louder, almost shouting, Stop following me! My eyes widened, because right behind him, less than half a meter away, another set of small, red-tinted footprints had appeared. My heart sunk. Was that who he was talking about? Without wasting a second, I turned to Jian Yuan. We'll each hold one of his arms, I said quickly. Let's get him out of here first. Lu Bai didn't resist this time. His face looked strange, but he allowed us to pull him toward the elevator. Once inside, Jiang Yuan pressed the button for the 18th floor. No! I shouted, canceling it immediately. Thankfully, the elevator hadn't started moving yet. To go back safely, we had to follow the same order, exactly as before. I pressed the buttons one by one, carefully repeating the sequence. When we reached the 5th floor, I was just about to press the final button for the first, when Jiang Yuan's eyes widened in shock. A girl, maybe 16 or 17, was standing just outside the doors. She wore a long red dress and thick-heeled shoes, size 35 or 36, the exact same kind of footprints we saw on the 10th floor. My breath caught. Could she be the one who followed Lu Bai? The girl slowly stepped in. Jiang Yuan shrank into the corner, trembling, her hands over her ears. My heart pounded so hard I could barely breathe. I remembered the rule, never look directly at her. I lowered my head immediately, avoiding her gaze. I tried to shield Lu Bai, but it was too late. His face went pale, his body stiffened like stone, and he began to shake uncontrollably. Thankfully, at that exact moment, the elevator reached the 1st floor. I covered his mouth and dragged him out as fast as I could. Jiang Yuan followed, gasping for air, but in her panic, she accidentally bumped into the girl. "Oh, I'm sorry," she blurted out. Then her eyes widened in horror as the realization hit her. Wait, I just spoke to her. I froze. What should we do now? I didn't even have time to think about Jiang Yuan anymore, because at that moment, Lu Bai suddenly lost control. He ran out into the corridor, waving his arms in panic, shouting words I couldn't understand. His face looked so strange, almost like he wasn't fully here. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my phone and called for emergency help. That night, under the effect of a mild sedative, Lubai finally fell asleep. Jiangwan, however, kept murmuring to herself, "She's coming for me. I failed the sequence. Am I really back?" The doctor said both of them were suffering from acute shock and exhaustion. Jiangwan would likely recover after a few days of rest. But Lubai's condition was more serious. Even standing near an elevator might trigger his trauma again. It was past midnight when he finally woke up. He looked at me, guilt filling his eyes. "I ruined our wedding," he whispered. I sighed softly. "Don't say that. We can always start over. What matters is that you're safe." Lubai hesitated for a moment, his voice trembling when he finally spoke again. "That girl, the one in red, she was my classmate. The one who played the elevator game with me 10 years ago." My breath caught. "That's impossible. She disappeared 10 years ago." Lubai nodded slowly, his expression blank. "Yes, and she looks exactly the same as back then. Same dress, same shoes. Nothing has changed." His voice began to shake, panic returning to his eyes. Zhang Yuan talked to her. That broke the final rule. The sequence, it's not over yet. It's going to pull us back. I held onto his arm tightly. "Calm down. What can we do now? Avoid elevators forever?" He shook his head, repeating the same words again and again. "It's no use. No use." The lights flickered, and somewhere down the hallway, the faint sound of an elevator ding echoed again. Suddenly, Lubai grabbed my hand tightly, his eyes filled with despair. "There's only one way left," he said in a trembling voice. "Zhang Yuan talked to her. If we take her back to the 10th floor, we'll be safe." I didn't answer right away. I tried to calm him down first. After he finally fell asleep, I quietly stepped out of the hospital room to get some air. That's when my phone rang. It was Zhang Yuan. Her voice was shaking. "The more I think about it, the more it doesn't make sense. I think something's wrong with Lubai." "What do you mean?" I asked. "He's the one who told you the game's rules, right? Then why didn't he go down himself? Why was he so terrified of a girl he used to know? And if that girl really was his friend who vanished years ago, why didn't he try to talk to her? Why not call the police? Doesn't that seem strange to you?" A chill crept down my spine. She was right. None of it made sense. If that girl truly was his old friend, why would Lu Bai be so afraid? Why wouldn't he want answers? His fear, it felt too unnatural. The call suddenly cut off. I stood frozen, staring at my phone. Then, instead of going back to the hospital, I went straight home. I still took the elevator because deep down, I didn't believe in that so-called elevator game. There had to be another explanation. I couldn't rely on Lu Bai anymore. And Jian Yan, well, I didn't really know her that well either. We had only met a few months before the wedding. I asked her to be my bridesmaid simply because I didn't have many close friends. Thinking back now, neither of them seemed completely trustworthy. If I wanted the truth, I had to find it myself. I went home, tried to rest, and when morning came, I returned to the building. The 10th floor in daylight looked completely different. Sunlight poured through the corridor, bright and quiet, nothing like the dark hallway I had seen the night before. The door to room 1004 showed no sign of the red footprints anymore. I ran straight to the sales office, pretending to be a buyer interested in old apartments. After a few questions, I managed to get the owner's information. But when I saw the name, my head went blank. The registered owner of apartment 1004 was Jong Yuan. My pulse started racing. I checked the building records, everything that happened here. Later that afternoon, Lu Bai was discharged from the hospital. On his way home, he kept insisting that I should take Jong Yuan back to the 10th floor. This time, I didn't refuse. I turned to him and asked quietly, "Will you come with us?" He avoided my gaze, shaking his head. "You know I can't. I can't even step into an elevator without panicking. Besides, we've postponed our wedding. I should start fixing everything, make it right for you." I didn't argue. I just nodded and called Jong Yuan. On the phone, I told her we needed to discuss new plans for the ceremony. She agreed without hesitation. By the time she arrived, it was already dusk. I went downstairs to meet her, and together we stepped into the elevator. Jong Yuan let out a nervous laugh. Honestly, that whole thing last time scared me so bad, I still get nervous in elevators. But her smile faded when she saw the button I pressed. "Wait, aren't we going to your place? Why did you press 4? I stayed silent. When the doors opened, I quickly pressed 2. She turned to me, her voice sharp now. "What are you doing? You're not trying to go there again, are you? You can't be serious." The doors opened and closed again. Her face was pale now, but she didn't move. Neither of us spoke until the elevator stopped once more, at floor 10. I took a deep breath. "Jungyeon," I said quietly, "I'm sorry, but everything started because of you." Before she could react, I pushed her out of the elevator. The doors closed instantly. The elevator began to move, but instead of following the sequence, I pressed 9. When I stepped out, I ran to the emergency stairs at the other end of the hall. I waited there for about 10 minutes, then slowly climbed the stairs back to the 10th floor. The hallway was silent, completely silent. Sunlight streamed through the window. Everything looked perfectly normal. Without hesitation, I walked straight to the door of apartment 1004 and took out a key. It was the key Jang Yan had quickly handed me just before the elevator doors closed. I opened the door and stepped inside. The bedroom was empty except for Jung Yuen, bound and gagged, her hands and feet tightly secured. Across from her stood a man holding a stick and a pen. Familiar. Too familiar. It was Lu Bai. He stared at me, eyes wide. "Where did you get that key?" "Wait, honey. Let me explain. None of this is what you think. I did all this to save you. This game, it involves us. You have to trust me." I waved him off. "Stop it. Don't make up stories. There's no elevator game. All of this, it's just something you two staged yourselves." Lu Bai's face twisted. He began to lose control. "How do you know? Who told you?" I smiled wryly. Do I really need someone to tell me? One look, and it's obvious. Honestly, I never believed it in the first place. The so-called elevator game simply created a different visual effect. Lights could change color. A protective film on the window could block sunlight. On that first day, my trip upstairs took 13 minutes. During that time, Jiang Huan had the perfect opportunity to reach the 10th floor and plant the red footprints, but she wasn't strong enough to go back up to the 18th floor afterward. She could only hide on nearby floors, waiting for the elevator to return. That explained why she got downstairs 3 minutes before me. And the can't let go of her thing, holding someone's hand at the doorway when Lu Wai went to fetch the wedding shoes, Jiang Huan wasn't in the crowd. Only when everyone realized Lu Wai had disappeared did she hurry upstairs. If Jiang Huan had applied that drug to the wedding shoes, causing Lu Wai to lose consciousness upon touching them, then that night played out like this. Jiang Huan watched Lu Wai into the elevator, then quickly went downstairs, pressed the elevator to go down, and locked Lu Wai unconscious in apartment 1004, creating a staged disappearance. Lu Wai remained silent upon waking in 1004. Only when I investigated Jiang Huan's identity did I uncover a crucial clue. Jiang Huan's had a younger sister, Jiang Ha, who attended the same high school as Lu Wai, but mysteriously vanished 10 years ago. I managed to get photos of Jiang Ha, and indeed, she was identical to the girl I saw on the 5th floor that day. In other words, Jiang Huan's sister, Jiang Ha, was the girl who once went with Lu Wai to the abandoned building to play the elevator game. The abandoned building had been renovated half a year later, turning into a new residential complex, the building we live in now. Everything made sense. Jiang Huan, investigating her sister's disappearance, had kept an eye on Lu Wai, used me to get close to him, and finally took the opportunity to lure him to the 10th floor. But if that was the case, why did she come with me to bring Lu Wai back? I looked at Jiang Huan, tied to the ground. How much effort did you put into all this? In the end, what was your goal?
Her gaze fixed on Lu Bai as she asked an incomplete question. That day, when you woke up here, do you remember anything? Lu Bai's face went pale. He grabbed the roll of tape nearby, ready to gag her again. Don't move. I looked at Lu Bak, my mind reeling. The truth hit me like a lightning bolt. For years, I had shared a life with someone I thought I knew, but now I realized I didn't. Zhang Qian's eyes were fixed on him. Do you remember what happened that day? She asked, her voice steady yet intense. Lu Bak froze. His face went pale, and for a moment he seemed almost paralyzed. He reached for a tape roll, as if to stop her from speaking. I stepped forward holding a small knife, not to hurt anyone, but to make sure she could finish. Let her speak, I said firmly. Zhang Huan's expression hardened. You made up quite a story. Adventures, games, classmates. But why didn't you ever tell her the truth? Why hide so much? Her gaze pierced through him. You said Zhang Ha was your first love, the one you cared for the most. You spoke of your plans together, college, your future, yet you kept the secret. I swallowed hard. Lu Bak's calm, familiar face now seemed strange and frightening. The person I had known, the one I had trusted, was not who I thought he was. Everything clicked into place. The elevator game wasn't real. The unusual lights, the strange floors, it was all a setup, a way to hide the truth. Zhang Ha's disappearance 10 years ago, the mysterious incidents in the building, Lu Bak had been at the center of it all. And I had been living with him, completely unaware. Zhang Huan continued speaking. You were clearly nervous because of your guilty conscience. That day, I tied you up here and even found a girl who looked very similar to Zhang Ha to test your reaction. I thought you would tell the truth and apologize, but instead, you pretended to be insane. And even more unexpectedly, you didn't feel any remorse. You wanted to silence me instead. At that moment, Luke Bok stopped pretending. He raised a small knife and stared at Sang-hoon. "You came here on your own," he said coldly. I quickly untied Sang-hoon's hands and pulled her toward the door. But Luke Bok grabbed my hair and pushed me hard toward Sang-hoon. We both fell to the floor. He took slow, tense steps forward, his expression twisted with anger. "I already have a new life now. Why do you all want to force me? My love, didn't you say you loved me? Why are you leaving me because of a few words from that woman?" I was trembling all over. Suddenly, Zhang Yin rushed up and tried to hold him back from behind. The knife in his hand slipped to the ground. I quickly picked it up. Just then, the door was kicked open and police officers came in, immediately restraining Luke Pak. I finally breathed a sigh of relief. From the moment I sensed something was wrong, I had already been cautious of both of them. Earlier today, in the elevator, Zhang Yuan suddenly handed me a key and whispered, "Go call the police." At that moment, I knew my suspicions were mostly right. So I secretly turned on my phone's camera and wore it on my chest to record clear evidence. Everything finally made sense. Later, I asked Zhang Yuan, "If you hadn't come that day, what would you have done?" I asked. "I already suspected that Luke Bak was planning to hurt you," Zhang Yuan replied calmly. "So even if I couldn't force the truth about what happened years ago, as long as the police saw what he tried to do, justice would be served." I looked at her and asked softly, "Will you be all right?" Zhang Yuan answered firmly, "I first approached you because I wanted to get close to Luke Bak, but wanting to be your friend, that was sincere." I didn't ask any more questions. After all, she had helped me uncover the true nature of the man I once loved. How could she not be considered a true friend?